a lot to unpack right here, and I just want to make sure that I put everything in here. So I had a dream, and this is actually two dreams that God gave me. I didn't understand it. So I kind of like tabled it. I was looking at the dream as far as symbolically, because a lot of times God will give me dreams and they need to be interpreted symbolically. So I'm looking at this dream, which I had an old regional manager who was in this dream. And I was working at an old employer back from 2018. I was working there. And now this regional manager, she no longer works there. And back in 2018, I actually left the company the same year that she did. In this particular dream that I'm having, I'm looking, I said, okay, well, if I work here, where's my paycheck? Because I made very good money at this job. I won money. I won like all expense paid trips. But because management changed, I left and she left. So I couldn't figure out what was going on with this dream. So I set it back. I tabled it. I said, okay, I don't understand this dream, so let me just table it. And then one day, as I was praying that God set me free, because I was in financial bondage. Just to be 100% honest with you, I was in financial bondage, and I kept praying. I've been going through about 3 years of intense warfare. So this intense warfare, I really had to stretch myself, and I really had to pray about it. But one night I had this dream. I had this dream that I was stuck in Bank of America with me and all these other people. So I know that this dream wasn't only for me. And as I'm stuck in Bank of America, everyone is running around. If you think you're stuck in a bank, you said, well, let me get some money. But there was no way out of this bank. That was financial stronghold. So I'm in this dream and everyone is running around and everyone is against each other because we are all stuck. All of a sudden, this person came beside me. They said, hey, do you want to get out? And I said, yeah, I want to get out. But there are gatekeepers at the door. There are guards at the door, and they won't let me out. And this person said, follow me. I'm going to get you out of here. So as I proceed to follow that person, I'm looking at that person, and that person's face was actually bright. I could not see that person's face. And I'm telling the person as I'm walking with them, they don't want to let me out. And I remember my face in the dream. I was terrified. Like, they don't want to let me out. I've been trying to get out of here. They won't let me out. Every time I try to go, I'm stopped. And that person is saying, it's okay, it's okay. I said, no. And as that person is leading me to the door, I see all the guards, the security guards at the door. And as that person is leading me out, I'm telling them, you don't understand. I can't get out. And the person kept saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And as I'm talking, because I'm frightened because of the guards at the door, and I said, they're there. They won't let me out. And the person just kept looking at me saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And as I continued to look at that person, as I was passing the guard, as I got to the door, the person said, okay, you're free. And I looked around, I said, I'm free? And they said, yeah, you're free. There's the door. And the door that I saw was at an employment time in my life. I believe at the time I was 25 years old. It was a job that I worked at on Wall Street in New York. It was the first job that I made my first 6 figures at. And I looked at the doors, and I remember the doors, how they looked. And I said, well, if I'm free, let me get out of here. And I left out of that place. Fast forward a month later, I was going through some things. I had a terrible weekend. Honestly, I was crying the whole weekend because it was just some terrible things. I was just through. I was really tired. I went to God and I told God, I said, you told me to do this, and I did it. You told me to cry loud and spare not. You told me to uproot generational curses. You told me to speak on those things that no one in my family wanted to speak about. I said, you told me to speak about it. And I did, God. And look where this got me. Look where I'm at. I said, God, I don't understand. I did everything you told me to do. That weekend, I turned off my phone. I turned off my phone because I didn't want to speak to anyone. I turned off my phone because mentally and physically, I was just really done. So that Monday came. I said, let me turn back on my phone. So I turned back on my phone on that Monday, and I got a call from an old coworker at that company that I used to work at in 2018. So he called me. He said, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm fine." And he said, "Guess what?" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "The old manager is back." And I said, "Oh, totally forgot about my dream." I said, "Oh, wow." I said, "That's great. They brought her back. She's really going to do good in that region." He said, "Yeah, they brought her back and we want you back." And when he said, "We want you back," I laughed. I burst out with the biggest laugh. And I had to tell him, I said, "I apologize. I am not laughing at you, but you don't understand the weekend that I had." He said, "Yes, we want you back on our team." And I'm like, "You sure?" He said, "Yes. Can I give her your number so that she can call you?" He gave her my number, and the rest is history. The same dream that I dreamt of, that I was working at the same company, working back at that same company, working with that same manager, has now happened today. I've been working at that new job for about 3 months now, because when I got on the phone with her, she said, "When can I hire you?" And I just want to let you guys know, what you saw in your dream will be seen. Those things that God told you that you thought would never happen, those things that God spoke to you in your quiet time and you said, "God, I don't know how that's going to happen." Everything that I saw in my dream, God has showed me in waking life. Working at that job, working with the same regional manager that I worked with, and coming back to that job with people who are like, "Wow, we're glad you're back." I just want to encourage someone, because God is saying what you have saw in your dreams, what you have seen as he's spoken to you, even in visions, what you saw will be seen in waking life. I couldn't understand that dream, because I was looking at that dream symbolically. I'm like, "God, what are you saying? Like, what are you saying in this?" And I couldn't understand it. So I just tabled it. I said, "Let me just sit this to the side." But God is saying, you're going to see his manifestation of his glory. You're going to see all the things that he said. You're going to see the ways that he told you he was going to work. It's going to happen in real life. It's going to be live and in living color. Because now that same job that I thought I would never go back to, that was in 2018. I'm back there now. This is a season of promises, of provisions, where God is going to supply those things that you need. So I wanted you guys to be encouraged. Even with those gatekeepers, God is busting you out of every prison, every place where you thought, "I can't get out of this." A lot of those things that you guys had to fight was from demonic setback and gatekeepers. And some of those gates, they came from the ones that were closest to you, but God has come to break you out of every place of confinement. He's breaking you out of every financial prison, out of delay that has hindered you. He is breaking you out. He's bringing you into freedom. And what you saw will be seen. That's what the Lord told me about this dream. He said, what you saw will be seen. So I just wanted to give you what God has given to me. You guys stay blessed, and I'll talk to you again.